like roller coasters?
Yes.
You know, I sure do. I just love that moment when you get to the top of a peak and you lift and you feel that exhilaration, and then all of a sudden you're in mid-air and you feel like your hiney has lifted off the seat and you're flying, and then whoosh, right back down. I love that moment. I bet you love it too. But you know what? Lately I've gotten a little old. Yeah, I don't do as well on roller coasters as I used to. In fact, the last roller coaster I rode was Space Mountain. You know, that really crazy roller coaster that goes like 33 miles an hour. But it does it in the dark, so you can't see what's coming, and that's the real thrill of it, is you don't know which way you're going next. I got a little sick after the last time I rode it. But, you know, it's okay. I love a good thrill ride. This story is just like that. In this story, there are a lot of ups and downs, and you don't see the turns before they come. Now, most of the time when we read this story, you know, our vacation Bible school, Sunday school version of this story always skips over the hard parts. It leaves out everything that's unpleasant. So when we read it, we don't hear about Uzzah dying on the threshing floor. We don't hear any of the nasty stuff. We just hear about David dancing his way into Jerusalem. We see all kinds of artwork and paintings of David, and he's dancing, incidentally, he's dancing half naked, into the city. And the people celebrate. The ark was the throne of God. Through the wings, God spoke to Moses. We don't know the full story of David's decision to bring the ark to Jerusalem and all of the drama that goes with it, because we just cleaned it up so much. So get comfy, fasten your lap belt. We're going on a roller coaster ride. Please keep your arms and legs in the cues at all times. Hold on to your personal belongings, folks. This story is a roller coaster. Now, the story takes place right after David's crowning, but he hasn't consolidated the kingdom yet. He hasn't quite gotten a handle on this unruly group of people and really claimed his nation yet. This is one of the very early acts of this new monarch. David has picked the city of Jerusalem to be the new capital city, which is a huge deal. It's a huge, huge deal because they've never had a city like this before. And Jerusalem is a perfect choice because it's not claimed by any tribe. And so the people can call it David's city, the city of David. And that is pretty darn smooth of David to negotiate that. So David manages to get the government all centralized in Jerusalem, and he's made it kind of the civic and cultural center, but there's one thing missing. It is not yet the center of religious life. And so he goes to get the ark and bring it back to Jerusalem. Bring it to Jerusalem. It hasn't been there yet. And to make Jerusalem the center of their religious life. Now, the Philistines had been holding the ark in an unsteady way because they won it kind of in a war, and then they tried to treat it like any other spoil of war and enjoy its splendor, but they were unable to keep it anywhere. Every time they brought it into a city, the people in that city would suddenly break out in these horrible tumors all over their bodies. They said they were struck by the hand of the Lord. Scholars say this probably had something to do with the bubonic plague. And so they would move it into a city and discover that everybody was getting sick, and they would quickly say, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's move it city down the street. And sure enough, as soon as it got there, the people there would start to break out. So finally, they got so fed up with the possession of the ark that they put it on a cart. And they put 2 cows in front of it. And they pointed those cows roughly in the direction of a little development called Beth Shemesh. And they said, "Go." And they waved goodbye to the ark. And as those heifers got near to Beth Shemesh, the people of Beth Shemesh celebrated. They saw it coming and there in the field, and they were elated. The ark of God had returned to the people. But their neighbors down the street were not so thrilled. In fact, they were pretty upset about it. And so 70 of them were struck dead. Just struck dead. Because they would not celebrate the Lord coming back to Israel. So the ark was brought to the house of Abinadab, and Eleazar was consecrated to watch over it. And this is where David finds it. It's been there for like a long time. Uzzah and his brother are designated to be the ones to be the transport team and get the ark to Jerusalem. Now here we are at the top of the roller coaster. Imagine it with me, reaching that peak, and you hear the chain engage, and it goes tick, tick, tick. You can see everything from here, and it's a beautiful sight. David has planned a grand parade. There are 30,000 men marching on Jerusalem with this holy relic. A full orchestra. Tick, tick, tick. They come to the threshing floor of Nahum. I think they must have been taking a shortcut. Because why would you take the ark through a threshing floor? And then everything goes amiss. The oxen stumble. The ark teeters. Uzzah reaches out to stop it, and God is angered. God is furious that Uzzah would touch the ark. And Uzzah dies there, next to the ark. Whoosh, we're plunging down. The track is winding. We don't know which direction we're going next. We don't know why or even if God really is the one who kills Uzzah, but it's clear that God is pretty ticked off. David is angry too. He is super angry. He sends the ark to the house of Obed-Edom. These names. And it stays there for 3 months. And still, he's wondering to himself, how can I get control of this ark? How can it come to be mine? His big procession, his big party was ruined. God has rained on his parade, literally. It was destroyed. We're plunging down the rickety tracks, and we're hoping that the brakes still work on this roller coaster. And suddenly, we're banking on a left turn. Woo! Into a corkscrew. David learns, while he's safely back at home, that the ark he abandoned has brought fortune and blessing to the family who are watching over it. So David has a change of heart. Do you feel the climb to the second lift now? It comes quickly. There's a subtle change in the way David brings the ark into the city the second time. The first time he brought it in on a cart with oxen. Did you get that, kids? A cart with oxen. The second time, the people carry it. God's instructions way back in 1 Chronicles had been that the ark should always be carried by the Kohathites. I think that's what it is. A special group who are dedicated to the care of the ark. Must always be carried by them. And David's anxiousness to acquire this new symbol of religion and power in the city of Jerusalem, he's forgotten God's instructions and instead followed the poor example of the Philistines. You would think that the plague would have been enough to convince him not to. He got hung up on the show and forgot how God desired to be honored. God did not want this new technology of an ox and a cart. God wanted God's people to feel the weight of what they were carrying. God wanted them to feel the weight of God's presence. Moving it was supposed to require heavy lifting. They needed to have that weight on their shoulders and pressed upon them. Here we come to the top of the track, and there's a moment of joy here. David is dancing, nearly naked, in front of the ark. He's celebrating, and all the people of Israel are celebrating with him, and it is a beautiful and loud cacophony of people and movement and excitement. This is the image we have of David. Not the image of him throwing a fit back on the threshing floor. Not the image of all of his duplicitous, backhanded attempts to gain power. Not even the image of him and all of his womanizing ways. And here we take the plunge. Falling quickly towards earth, we feel the ground approaching and we hope the brakes are working. Plunging, Michal sees him from her window in the palace. Coming into the village, she's the only one who hasn't gone to celebrate, the daughter of Saul and David's wife. She sees through him in all his self-serving ways. Now, Michal has a unique point of view. She's the only one who has not gone to celebrate. But she loved David since he was a boy. He was her one true love. She loved him in a way that made her willing to defy her father and hide him while Saul tried to kill him. She snuck him out her bedroom window. The Bible's full of some interesting stuff that is not PG rated. She did everything she could to save him, and he escaped. But David did not return for her. He did not come back to claim her as his bride until he already had 11 other wives. And then he claimed her as a spoil of war. She had a unique point of view. It's possible that when she looked down from that window, she saw the truth about David. And here we take a sharp curve to the right, and then a sharp left, and we slide in our seats and we wonder if our heads are going to pop off. She saw that David did love God, but David loved himself more. The roller coaster of this story runs on 2 tracks. The first track is David's love for God. The second track is David's sinful nature and self-interest. Although David's second attempt to bring the ark into Jerusalem is successful, we see all the way through this story that these 2 tracks are running in tension. We see that he is increasingly interested in his own pleasure, in his own gain, in his own way of getting power. And he ends up riding on the scarier track. When I wonder about this story, I ask myself, who are we like in this story? I suspect that most of us are like David. I know I am. I want to control things. I want to feel like my life is in my own hands. I don't want to wait for the will of God. We are constantly switching between these 2 tracks. We think we can switch back and forth when it suits us, to serve God and to love God when it's convenient, and to be self-interested when we need to be self-interested. David was not meant to be the maker of his own fate. God was there to do that for him. The minute David thought he had it under control, everything went wrong. But when David remembered that God is the sovereign, almighty one, then he danced with joy in front of the ark. How do we come to know God so closely that we don't get caught up in the tricks and gimmicks, but live authentic faith, bearing the weight of God's presence? In her poem, Lisa Ann Moss offers us the remedy for the switching tracks. It's called Leap of Faith. There are times when I feel in perfect rhythm with you. Other times I feel out of step, confused and unnerved like a child on her first day of class. You offer me your hand again, that I might follow your lead. I want to fly into your arms, trusting you are always there to catch me, but I hold back. I've been dropped by other partners. You understand. You are a patient teacher. You train me in the discipline of your ways. I become flexible and strong, quicker to respond to your touch. You show me step after step. I begin to understand your timing. I want to trust it even when you are beyond my sight. You move again and again and again in my life. My confidence grows, in you grows. I take the leap of faith. And so I ask, can we take the leap of faith? If we are to learn from David's story, perhaps the answer is to stop trying to lead the dance. We may not see what's coming, but we can see our loving God. We can focus on our love for God, on that track, instead of our own self-importance, and to enjoy the ride when we can. Let us study and pray and know that God's presence is with us always, and feel its weight on our lives. Because the dance, David's dance, the dance that expresses an overpowering love for God, is all about being responsive and open. And it's an even better rush than a roller coaster. Thanks be to God. Let us pray. O loving God, who is beyond our imagination or our understanding, we come to you this day aware that we do not know the steps to the dance which you are leading us through. Train us to rely on your guidance, Lord, so that we may be responsive always to you. Train us to be sensitive to your touch in our lives so that we may know when and how we are to move. Take your people, Lord, from this place of complicity sitting against the gym wall and move us to a place where our movements are all about your glory. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.